your mind be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
Hello?
Is that Mark?
Yes.
Yeah, Mark. Mark, my name's Roger Brookes. I'm from the Auckland Justices of the Peace Association.
Hi, Roger. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks, Mark. Good. Mark, you've sent an email with a, which really it's a complaint.
Yeah.
And we've got a certain complaint
Process.
You know, as soon as we get a complaint,
Mm-hmm.
we get in touch with the complainant, which is you in this case.
Yeah.
And I'll do that by email, so you've got a paper trail of what we're talking about now. I'll just email back, but just
Cool.
as a courtesy, I just want to say, before too much time slips by, we've got your complaint. I'll email, acknowledgement of receipt of that back to you, but in our process, we normally we get the consent of the person who's complained, being yourself in this case. We ask for your consent to give a copy of your complaint to the two JPs that have been complained about.
Okay.
So, and I don't think there's not too much of an issue for that, but then we can say to these guys, that's the allegation against you. We want a written response from you to this allegation to the complaints committee. So
Okay.
we put it to them to say, this is what the other person's saying, what are you saying? And then the complaints committee can sort of go forward from there.
Okay. Well, I mean, I honestly, actually, I can't remember exactly what I wrote. So could you just tell me what you believe the gist to be?
I can understand, because it's been a long, drawn-out thing for you, hasn't it?
Well, yeah, it's. I mean, the case is over. My point is, though, I wish and require a transcript of the matters, as I believe I'm a party to those proceedings, so I should be having a ability to get that transcript.
Yeah.
And I've been discussing with Carl Lewins, who is the manager of the North Shore District Court now, via email now for coming up to 3 months, requesting continually for it. Now those transcripts have been in the hands of Mr. Haworth, apparently, for at least 2 months.
Right.
I mean, I've even offered to go down and stand next to Mr. Haworth and read it out to him if it means I'm going to get it quicker. I've asked for direct dial numbers for Mr. Haworth to discuss it with him, because he also gave me what I believe to be a fraudulent and unlawful order that day for me to remove video clips that were on a YouTube channel.
Yep.
He didn't specify the clip. I don't know, have I supplied you that paperwork?
No.
Well, there's a written order, and it was entitled Acknowledgement by Mark Donald Eric Keane, which is my legal person's name.
Yep.
And he had written this, himself and Mr. Cave had pre-written this, dated on the 19th of May, and they forced me to sign it. I literally said, are you going to come and physically make my hand sign the document? And he threatened me with contempt and arrest if I didn't sign the document. Now, I was there to discuss a matter that I had an issue with the police. And he did this right at the start of the court day, before I even got to have the defended hearing in regards to the matters I was actually there for.
Huh.
So who was he? I asked him, where do you derive your authority over myself and another man? And we're all equal before the law, are we not?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so obviously if I'm going to walk in there as a man, and whether I believe I'm represented as a person within a society in that courtroom, they couldn't answer me whether or not it was a private hearing or a public hearing. They couldn't answer me as to why it was a criminal matter, as there was no harm, loss or injury, which I confirmed by the testifying of the cop on the stand when I asked him. But I don't have the transcripts to back this up.
Right. Well, look, we're going to have a little inquiry here with our Judicial Complaints Committee in due course, but
Well, I mean, I've emailed to the Judicial Conduct Commissioner, and he's told me he only has authorities over judges.
Yep.
So then I asked him to stipulate what he meant by judge, whether it was natural person or legal person. He stated only natural persons could be appointed the position of a judge. And then I stated that on the charge form it states that it's a judge alone trial. Right? So naturally I'm going to make a complaint to the Judicial Conduct because it's to do with a judge alone trial. For him to then turn around and tell me that it's Parliament's wishes for Justice of the Peace to be exempt from the Judicial Conduct Commissioner.
Yep, and in that sense, the subset of judicial officer called Justice of the Peace is a little bit outside
the purview of the Judicial Conduct. It's Parliament's wishes for Justice of the Peace to be exempt from the Judicial Conduct Commissioner.
Yep, and in that sense, the subset of judicial officer called Justice of the Peace is a little bit outside
the purview of the Judicial Conduct.
But look, we'll meet up at that intersection a little bit later.
Sure.
In the judicial sense.
By all means. I mean, I'm not, at the end of the day, the guy, Mr. Haworth, he lowered the infringement cost of the speeding ticket by $70. I took that as meaning he was just entertained for the 3+ hours that I spent arguing a speeding ticket. My whole argument on that day was that there was no driver's license presented and that the constable on the side of the road, and he identified himself as a constable, then proceeded to enforce statutory instruments. Now, he was either being a constable or he was being an enforcement officer. And on the stand, Constable Neil Winterbottom stated that he had been a constable and a traffic officer for 26 years.
Right.
Now, I merely asked him what capacity was he acting on the side of the road that day. And he was instantly shut down by Mr. Haworth. No, I wasn't getting any straight answers. I mean, these are only fair questions, and all I have ever done is ask questions.
Yep.
Do you get where I'm coming from? I mean, I'm not legally trained, but I've spent 4 years learning all different sorts of societal structures. I have 3 or 4 legal dictionaries to refer to, but I don't understand any of it because I'm not legally trained. And when I go to a duty solicitor and I ask them to explain to me what an offence is it wrong? And she gets up and walks out of the room.
These are the only matters that are before the court today.
Sure, but what jurisdiction is this court? Is this an administrative hearing? Is it a criminal court?
It's a minor traffic court. It's the court that you'll be appearing before.
So is that a criminal or is it civil?
It's criminal.
Okay, so what crime am I being accused of doing? What harm or injury did I cause?
Well, there are 2. One is that you've exceeded the posted speed limit, and the other is that you failed to produce your driver's licence.
Yeah, and Neil failed to identify who this you character is.
And presumably they would be infringements.
I don't understand.
That would be that at the side of the road the police serve you with an infringement notice, and if you don't pay the fine then it ends up coming to court. And that's probably
I've never met this person called police. No one served me anything.
So you can appear in court today and you can argue who you are or who you aren't.
Oh, I'm not arguing that.
And the court will expect a plea out of you, and if you're not prepared to enter a guilty or a not guilty, then they will take
I'm happy to say not guilty.
Well,
I'm happy to say not guilty in regards to that matter because I've got video evidence.
That's all you have to do today.
Yeah, but I'm questioning the jurisdiction.
Today,
so where did they gain the jurisdiction over myself, a man, in the first place? Because Neil couldn't answer that.
That's something you can raise with the community, with the Justices of the Peace this morning. That's who you'll be appearing before this morning.
Justice of the Peace, are they acting under their oath?
Well, you can ask them that.
So that's...
Okay, or you cannot appear in court at all if you don't recognise the jurisdiction.
It's not a matter of recognition. I can file an appearance. An appearance is just a bit of paper or a memorandum. It's got nothing to do with me physically being there. The presence of the body creates the floor of the name, correct?
Well,
if I stand there on the meat for the name, correct?
People here are entitled to plead guilty under a letter if they wanted to do that.
So in other words, appearance can be a notice or memorandum.
Yeah,
right, thank you. So the fact that I've served notices on the New Zealand Police telling them that I do not understand legalese, legal customs, and not a member of the legal society, and they continue to consider myself a person, to me an understanding of a person is...
What do you describe yourself
as? I'm a man.
Like
you're a woman, aren't you?
But am I not a person as well? You're not
Oh, I don't know
at the
what
same
member of
time?
society you're. I don't know what
What's the
you're a
definition
member
of a person?
Person is an individual within any given society, is it
Well,
not?
then are you not a person as well then? Are you in
What
a
society do you believe I'm in?
Well, you
I'm
tell
on
me.
Earth.
So-
I'm not in anything.
Okay.
I'm at court. I'm not in court. And little words are the defining ones, are they not?
Well, Mark, you're just a bit too much for me. I mean,
I'm sorry. I've just spent 4 years learning legislature,
Well,
legalese, and the
well,
words
I'm
and these
taking-
dictionaries, and I don't understand
I'll
legalese. I
tell
want
you
English.
what you are required to do here today.
Are you not supposed to translate it for me?
You can either accept what I'm telling you is what's required today or not. I'm not going any deeper than that.
I
for you
don't
today,
want to
Mark.
argue.
I'm sorry, Mark. I've told you this is what's required today. Your name, whether you answer it or not, is going to be in courtroom 4.
I'll be there to
You can-
represent
you-
that
you
person.
can
I'll be
present
present as a
yourself to them
man.
Or not.
Yeah.
And you can explain yourself to them.
I don't
okay?
need. Again, who's
They-
this you
They
character?
will call a name.
Yeah.
Mark, it's up to you.
They will call a name.
It's up to
Yeah.
Mark.
Yep,
The
and I'll
person
show,
who
and
identifies
I'll walk
Mark.
in there, and I'll be there present
That's
in the
right.
courtroom.
And
Absolutely.
You can speak to them and say what you want.
That's exactly it. All I've tried to do is have discussion with
Stop being
with
argumentative, Mark.
argumentative is to clarify, is it
Stop
not?
being argumentative, Mark.
I wish to
What you want
clarify
do,
it.
And there you go. Okay, I'm ending this now. Okay.
So
I
you're
can't-
not willing to
no,
interpret
I
these
can't-
words for me?
I can't take it any further.
Why not?
No, I'm not prepared to. It's beyond the scope of my role as a duty lawyer, which is to represent
But,
unrepresented people.
Well,
Now, if you're not a person,
well,
then
is
I'm
people
sorry.
a person? What are you meaning?
I'm
Person
ending
is
it.
one of 5
Sorry,
things, is
Mark,
it not?
I'm ending it now.
A corporation,
Just-
sole body, corporate,
you're
natural
very much
person,
needed,
legal
Mark.
person.
I can't deal with you. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry you can't understand that language. I'm sorry.
I'm a duty lawyer, but
Well, I spoke to. I'm supposed to be speaking to. I spoke to Mr. Skinner last time I was in here last week. I'm quite happy to go and speak to Mr. Spring, who's apparently the head of it all
it
here.
is Mr. Spring.
Great, I'll have a word to him.
That's not cool either. All of this is recorded. All of it is on YouTube for public purview because my understanding it's all a public system, isn't it?
But what I'm doing today is just phoning you about our complaints process.
Okay, so what's the first step there?
No, it's just to ask you for your consent if we can show the emailed complaint you've sent to us to the JPs that you've complained about.
Will that hinder his decision in releasing the transcripts to me? Because at the moment, and I haven't had any email from Carl Lewins in the last 2 or 3 days to say otherwise, that it is still within the hands of Mr. Haworth. So if I consent for that email complaint to be shown to him, will that not make him somewhat reluctant to release the transcript? Because apparently it's his authority that has to release it, which I don't get. Because I'm asking for a transcript from the courthouse. What does the JP have to do with that?
Yeah.
Can you explain that one to me, roughly?
No, I can't. No,
Because-
I'm not too sure of that. But
Although I'm getting referred to go back to the court to ask for the transcript, and yet the court services manager is telling me it's up to the JPs to allow the release of it. Well, how is that possible? I should be allowed the release of it regardless of what the Justice of the Peace thinks about the situation.
yep. It's a big issue.
It is.
Issue. You know, stepping back and looking at the whole thing, it's a myriad of little issues. But
Oh, it is.
our angle, all we need to do is to address the 2 JPs and say, this here is the allegation from Mark. What's your comment, please?
Well, are they not obliged to tell me who they are? When I say I wish for you to identify yourself, and even once while I was under affirmation giving testimony, and for them to turn around and blatantly just say no,
Yep.
is
It'll come
the,
up in our inquiry when we speak to them about that. We'll no, when I
What-
say we, I mean the our little judicial committee will ask them those questions.
because that's an act of dishonour. I mean, it's fair enough to always know who you're speaking to and who you're dealing with. My dad taught me that when I was a young fella. Always know the name of who you're speaking to. And all I wanted to know, and I had to go back to Carl Lewins after making an email complaint to the Judicial Conduct Authority to get that information. And Carl told me who they were on the 21st of May, 2 days after the court hearing. Before then, it was just one guy with half white hair, and I think Mr. Cave was the shorter of the two, and he was being more the secretary on the side. And, I don't really have much of a problem with Mr. Cave other than him making a comment, I think it was of the like, do something or other, and then we will get rid of him. And I turned around and said, you won't be getting rid of me, mate. I've got my day here in court.
Yep.
You know, that's just dishonourable.
Yeah, would you like me to read your email?
Yeah, please, yes.
Yeah, okay. So it reads like this. It's titled, What Happened? Refused to identify themselves multiple times during 3-hour case. Authored a document and forced myself to sign or not have hearing withholding transcripts of the matter in question. Refer Carl Lewins, North Shore District Court. Forced myself to surrender property while at courtroom.
My phones, yes.
Trespass, fraud. The list can go on, but I would prefer to discuss this man-to-man, via phone, or face-to-face.
Cool.
Now, with this, you prefer to discuss it man-to-man. I'm not one of those. I'm not the man, that you would discuss it with.
Cool.
Now, with this, you prefer to discuss it man-to-man. I'm not one of those. I'm not the man, that you would discuss it with.
Well, I'll be talking to any man or woman, irrespective of what their name is.
It won't be me. So I'm
Sure.
the messenger at in this instance.
Yeah, and I can appreciate you probably feel like a bit of the meat in the sandwich too. I'm sorry for that, Roger.
That's right, and it goes on. I have multiple recording, copy of the fraudulent document in question, and have recorded every step of the process, including the vehicular assault committed by the constable while he ran away from myself to avoid my questions.
Excuse me? Don't walk away from me. You can have this back. Don't you try and run me over, mate. Don't you dare. You're running over my foot right now. Back off. You're on my toe. Look at this. He's run. Get off my fucking toe. You're moving forward. Back up. Get off my toe. You are. Get off of my toe. You evil man. You're being done for assault. Excuse me? Don't walk away from me. You can have this back. Don't you try and run me over, mate. Don't you dare. You're running over my foot right now. Back off. You're on my toe. Look at this. He's run. Get off my fucking toe. You're moving forward. Back up. Get off my toe. You are. Get off of my toe! You evil man! You're being done for assault!
Yeah. He also committed perjury with under oath and cross-examination. So that's
correct. Well, he stated right at the start of his testimony that he noticed myself travelling past him. So when I say to him, so I was travelling, because I've even given a signed, sworn, JP witnessed affidavit of fact to rebut his statement of facts, which has been absolutely ignored. And in that statement, I said that I was travelling westward. So there's no debate that I was travelling. The whole point was I wasn't driving. I wasn't acting in any commercial capacity. I wasn't operating under a driver's licence at the time. I was just being a man going from point A to B in my own property. So unless he had viewed or been the bearer witness of a driver's licence which proved there was a contract, he couldn't enforce jack upon me. And the whole point was he identified himself as a constable. There was no breach of the peace. He wasn't acting impartially because he was trying to enforce a statutory policy against me. You know, I've spent too long learning all of this jargon to then try and follow the rules, only to have the people that are supposed to be adhering to the rules make their own shit up. You know, he told me that, he said, because the whole crux of the matter was that if Neil Winterbottom, the constable, if that man had ordered me to produce a licence, I gladly would have. But he said to me on tape, I'm not ordering you to do anything.
Driving licence.
I am happy to produce anything you order me to do.
I'm not ordering you to do anything.
Aren't you?
Driving licence.
I am happy to produce anything you order me to do.
I'm not ordering you to do anything.
Aren't you?
Driving licence.
I am happy to produce anything you order me to do.
I'm not ordering you to do anything.
Aren't you? So if he's not going to give me a lawful order, why am I getting charged for failure to produce?
Rhetorical question. That's one that I can't answer. But that
well, it's a simple thing. He's either giving me a request to do something, or he's ordering me to do something.
All I need, Mark, is for your consent today.
Sure. Well, go ahead. As long as you believe it's not going to hinder the release of that transcript to me, because I don't care if it takes me 4 years. I don't care if I have to go to that courtroom every day and witness the man in person until he releases what I believe I'm entitled to. And I've had no legal, legally trained man or woman tell me otherwise, that I do not have a right to those transcripts. And I believe I do, as a party. So, the fact that they're withholding them, the longer they withhold them, the more guilty they look.
Yep.
They're digging themselves a deeper hole.
Yep.
And all I've ever wanted from day one was an apology from the man for running onto my toe.
Right.
I'm not after monetary remedy. I just want him to be a man, own up and say, shit, sorry, shouldn't have rolled onto your toe, and I would forgive him for it.
Yep. Okay.
And I'm just trying to be a man, living on earth and being fair about it. But this justice system that I've spent so long learning, it's a really, I'm sorry, it's a joke.
Yep.
And I've had to go to the judicial, like I've said. I've also gone to the JP Federation of New Zealand, which apparently is a different association from the Auckland Federation, or the Auckland Association. So
with all complaints, they need to originate here. So anything that's gone to a judicial committee, the Federation in Wellington, they're all obliged to send it back to here, and it starts here. So.
Okay. Or the Auckland Association. So
with all complaints, they need to originate here. So anything that's gone to a judicial committee, the Federation in Wellington, they're all obliged to send it back to here.
Okay, cool.
It's all funneling back, and we're about to start the process. And what our protocol asks for is that we get consent
sure.
from the complainant to provide a copy of the complaint to the JP's complained of.
Well, to answer that question correctly, I would say yes, we do give consent, because I'm not speaking as just a man. I'll be speaking representing the person, so therefore I'm a plural.
Yep. Okay.
All right. So.
Well, look, are you okay for me to send an email just confirming that?
Sure. It stands for commonly known as Mark of the House of Keene.
All right. Okay.
Makes sense, doesn't it?
Yep.
Right.
Of the House of Keene. Okay, well, look, I'll shoot that off to you now, Mark, and thanks very much for that.
That's all right, Roger. I really appreciate your call and actually acting upon, because you're the first man or woman that's actually rung me up to respond in any way, short of just an email from a nameless man or woman. They don't even sign the emails.
I think it's because they're all
a bit worried.
Sure of what to do, but we're not, because we're the starting point, and we'll shift things on to other people, and when they get it from us, then they'll know where it's coming from. But at the moment, they're probably just unsure.
Hey, just as a side note, they stipulated in this document that he had me sign that I was aware of the recordings and of judicial people and whatnot, that that there were signs and notices saying no recording. Now, and apparently most people or persons within society would have to go ahead and request authority to do a recording in the courtroom.
Right.
However, I gave the North Shore District Court notice that I would be doing it.
Right.
Now, nobody gave me a rebuttal saying that I couldn't, and I even told Carl over the phone that I'd be doing as I wish and recording the process.
And then with regards to recording in a public place, yes, it is a public place. Members of staff, if they don't want to be recorded, they can ask you.
Sure, of course, and I would not have had an issue in the world if I was recording. If he had said something to me, I would have blurted out. If no issue there, none whatsoever. But being told, like some parent telling a child, not okay. Not when he's being the public servant. No way.
I would understand how you feel about coming across like that.
Well, that's how it come across. I mean, he had no authority or capacity to tell me, just a man in front of him, what I can and can't do.
There's no rule which people recording in a public area in the court. You're not allowed to record in the courtroom. There's no rule which people recording in a public area in the court. You're not allowed to record
a you might not be. I mean, I hadn't established myself as being a plural. I wasn't a man acting within a person, within a society. I was just a man. No joinder between myself and any person had been established.
If there's any other areas like media, they need to request.
Oh yeah, I've had a look at those media rules on the Ministry of Justice website there, and for media to be asking permission and so forth.
That's right, yeah.
But I mean, myself, from many years ago I suffered brain injury. I had an aneurysm, and my memory's not the best, so I prefer recording for my own records, for no one else's. And I don't care who's in front of me. That judge at the counter's got no more authority over myself than I do. So, I mean, he can ask me to turn off something if I've got it recording. I don't have to abide by that.
But if you're in court tomorrow, actually in the courtroom itself.
Well, I'm going to be there in special appearance just as a man. I'll be presenting myself to the court, and I expect the plaintiff to appear, even though it's a preliminary hearing. That's only for the judge to establish jurisdiction over myself in the first place.
But if you're wishing to record in court tomorrow, then you need to make a request to do that.
If I wished to record in court, I would have thought that I could do as I wish.
Well, you'll be requested to start turn the recording device.
That would be fine. But can a request be declined?
I will leave that with you.
Well, no, it's not. These are ambiguous words, and a request can be made. If someone wants to order me to do something, that's fine, no problem. I'm happy to produce or perform any order, because I always charge for any order that's given to me. I gave the North Shore District Court notice that I would be doing it.
Right.
Now, nobody gave me a rebuttal saying that I couldn't, and I even told Carl over the phone that I'd be doing as I wish and recording the process, because I don't believe I'm going to get a fair and accurate record back, which is proving to be accurate because I'm not getting the transcripts.
Sure.
So, the fact that they took my property, they made me surrender my cell phones. My wife's at home in a wheelchair most of the time. She was unable to contact me for 3 hours.
Right.
There's lots of other things other than them, what it seemed to be just covering their dishonourable behaviour inside that what seemed to be a private administrative hearing.
Sure.
And it's really strange. And I don't mean to bring it all down on you, Roger, but when you after so long of being brought up in a society and you believe you're just a person in a country, to find out that you're actually just a man on earth, and it's a choice whether or not you want to be represented as anything else. It's a fine line there, and the ambiguity written in legislature is disgusting.
Yes.
It's a fine line there, and the ambiguity written in legislature is disgusting.
Yes.
Interpretations Act 1999, Section 30 states a person's a body, corporate, corporation, soul, or unincorporated body, and I'm none of those three things. So when they're not used to a man or a woman talking back to them using their own language, but the court wouldn't even recognise me saying that man and pointing to Neil. Right. They said you will address him as Constable Winterbottom or Officer Winterbottom, and I'm sort of, well, okay, well, my mum gave me the name Mark, and I wish for the court to address myself as Mark.
Okay.
And he said no.
Yep. Okay. Well, look,
you get it?
We'll deal with all that a little bit further down the track.
Oh, yeah, I know.
This process kicked off, and your consent to us to provide that to Mr. Cave and Mr. Haworth are really appreciated, Mark.
No problem at all, Roger.
Okay.
Thanks very much. Do you have a direct dial number or a contact number I can get back to you on? Well, I think it's on the website, isn't it?
Website, but I'll give it to you now. It's
Okay. Thanks, Roger.
Okay.
Cheers.
Goodie, Mark.
You have a good day.
Bye now.
Bye now.
I said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow, or it can crash. Be water, my friend.